Hello, good afternoon. Sorry for this little technical late. My name is Marta Rangel. I'll be the moderator for the next two panels. And we're going to discuss the challenges and achievements of multimodal open data structures, and also the obstacles and challenges from research to policy implementation. But first, I would like to make you all a little challenge, a challenge to the audience. I'm going to ask you 3 or 4 questions, and I would like you, please, to answer raising your arm. Is that okay? It's just a small challenge. So, first question. Who arrived here at this conference using public transportations? Please raise your arm. Well, 1, 2, 3. Just 3. 3. Oh, sorry. 4, 5. So, second question. Did you use several connections to reach here the conference? Please raise your arm. Like 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 persons. Or 8, I believe, 9. Was it easy to use all these connections? Was it easy? If yes, raise your arm. And if no, wasn't easy. So, do you believe using Portuguese public transportations is most of the times a positive experience? If you think so, please raise your arm. Positive experience, most of the times. So, like, sorry?
Public transportation includes, let's say, aircraft, trains, everything.
Urban environment.
Yeah, urban environment. Yes, urban environment. I believe we are all a little optimistic, right? So that's the kickstart for our debate. Thank you so much for your answers. Now, we're going to start this panel, Fostering Multimodal Open Data Structures, Challenges and Achievements, with Liliana Pina from Deloitte, Daniel Rudmark from RISE Viktoria, and Nuno Gomes Lopes da Associação Comboios 21, Brian Masson, Transport Consultant and Business Improvement Specialist, and Rui Velasco do IMT, Instituto da Mobilidade e dos Transportes. I'm sorry for my mobile phone, but this is only a timer just for checking how long are we talking. So, I would like to start with Daniel Rudmark and ask you if, as we heard, also in Sweden it is possible to purchase a single ticket in a single operation for any trip in the country, including several operations. What do we need? No? Is that correct? What do we need here in Portugal, and specifically here in Central Region, to make this possible, in your opinion? Is this $1 million question?
100,000 at least.
1,000.
No, but I think in a sense it boils down to how things are organized. And I think sort of a prerequisite for that to happen in Sweden was that there was actually a central organization that could, where all public transport agencies and companies are attached to, they own this company. So they have all the data that is necessary. They are ruling this company. And that is of course a very good foundation if you want to create a ticket sales program for an entire region or country. So I think that is a key question, and if that is possible here, I don't know, if it is, there is also, I mean, that's one way to go, I guess. And another sort of stream of activities is that has been ongoing because is that there is standardization efforts when it comes to ticket sales. Currently, the ticket sales systems are very much proprietary systems in Sweden. So we have this PS Plus, as was on here earlier, but that also makes it's quite difficult today to change supplier of ticket systems. So they have developed an independent standard for how you can sell tickets and validate tickets and those kinds of things that you have to do with tickets. And my assessment would be that if that kind of thing could happen here also, that would increase the chances of making sort of multi-regional tickets.
Rui Velasco, are we on the right track?
Well, I believe yes. We have some cases on which we can use the same ticket on different operators. So we have some examples of situations like this, and like we have been talking during the whole day, there are two major obstacles. One of them is changing the mentalities of the people. In this case, you have to have operators working together. They have to talk about...
Sorry, changing mentalities of the people or also of the companies?
Changing mentalities of all the people, including the people that operate the companies.
Okay.
Because you cannot change only the mentalities of the passenger. Even the operators have to change.
Sure.
And if we want to go towards a world where we can use data in a seamless way, without problems, as all of us users would like to use it, I just sorry for just one question that you asked if everyone came from public transport. I would like to ask one question to the
Sure.
public.
Be my guest.
Which of you used this mobility instrument to get here? Either to find a way, to call someone, to check the schedule?
I did.
Okay, so more people than the people that use public transport. So this is getting to be the major instrument for mobility. And the fuel of this thing is data. So, and energy also. We cannot get rid of the energy, but data is the most important component in order to have things working in a way that is easy for the users. So I believe Portugal is in a good way, and we just need to work on those examples that we have and progress from there.
So Ryan, we've heard you before. Why is it so important to use big data, and how can we comply that need to a more strict regulation from you?
Well, big data is only useful if you know what you want and what you want to do with it. And you have to, as the gentleman next to me said, we have to get all the operators together to realise that we're not competing with each other. We're trying to make Portugal the most attractive place to come and live, set up a business, clean air, nice and safe for people. We've got to sell a vision to everybody in the country.
And when you say operators, you mean public and private operators?
All taxis, trains.
More partnerships.
Partnerships. It's all about you're trying to make your country as attractive as possible. And the sum of all this data comes from the people to solve their problems, to solve their societal problems, their economic problems. So we need to use data as a means of, if you go to the doctor and say, oh, and they say, well, what, I've got a sore leg, he'll treat you for a sore leg. Well, if you've got 5-10 million people and you can get all the data, tell them their problems. Solve one person's problem is difficult. If you've got 7 or 8 million problems, you will identify groups of similar things that you can tackle in the area. So if you look at the fishing industry, for example, using technology, they can now identify where fish are and go and fish there. So if we can get data, you don't need to make every bus accessible for disabled people. If you can identify solutions that can actually meet the needs of disabled people directly, and I was involved in the UK of conduct every bus to be wheelchair accessible. Has that had an impact on mobility? Yes. Has it had the expected impact? No, because people with prams get on and the likes. So the data was used to create a mechanical solution which did not give the results that could be there. However, with big data now, if you can identify the needs of society, you can actually set up niche markets using business models like Google long tail, if you can identify there's 50 people in area that are wheelchair users, and work with the taxi trade and say, right, when do you want to travel, work with the municipality and decide the most efficient number of vehicles that could make their needs, you could have a really good transport system. So we could end up with, back to my cake analogy, lots of small niche markets to meet the total needs of society, instead of saying, we'll get everybody on a bus. That's not going to work, because people have time constraints, monetary constraints, and we've got to maximise the use of our resources. That's where big data comes in. We can identify the problems, and we have to have a structure that we can all sit around the table in an honest way and realise that to our collective benefit, to benefit the country, we will benefit ourselves and benefit society.
Liliana, Pina, do you believe offering open data can boost the economy? A research conducted by Deloitte found that the provision of free, accurate and real-time open data is helping London's economy.
Yeah, definitely. TfL, Transport for London, is
Exactly.
a very good example of that. We are working very closely to them, not only from previous years. We are articulating a lot of studies, not only in London City, but trying also to gather different players from the market. TfL, Google, technological partners, startups, in order to gather the most of the information available, and in a free way try also to think not only to gather data but also be intelligent, as you said before, and try to build different information models in order also to create different monetization of that information for the market, because we know that one of the big problems here in Portugal is the ability for the different operators to try to share information, and one thing that is beginning to happen here in Portugal is the mentality that, okay, we can gather the information, but we also can monetize it, and we can gain some dividends on that, and that's one of the main triggers also in our economy for that to happen. Even in Portugal, this kind of work very closely to technology companies, public and private ones, is also happening. We can give you also the example of Cascais municipality. We are closely working on a platform, a technology platform, that the main goal is to not only gather the information, but also create an integrated view of that information for the municipality manager. Okay,
So that's a small step.
yeah, that's a big
For the whole
step.
city.
That's a big step, because we are talking about together and articulate different players, like technological ones, like Vodafone, for example, with the players that already created applications to monitorize the environment, the sound, the water, the energy, the transportation, like the Visa. So those companies that are companies that have for only transportation, some of them are also gathering with different companies from other sectors that are being impacted in this transformation in terms of the future of living. And this is a big step, because we think that this integrated view is only possible if different players can reach to a common goal, because each of one have a good stake to offer, and they will create value. And this is also very, I believe, demanded and very a critical aspect to orchestrate all of this is also the public involvement, the sponsorship of the public, in this case of the municipality, that is creating a lot of solutions, trying also to gather the citizens to this kind of solutions. And now Cascais, I can share with you also, Cascais is being one of the examples in our network, global network in Deloitte, that is being discussed around the world. Last week we published inclusively an article in the Wall Street Journal where we present Cascais as an example as one of the mainstreams in this thought and development of new technologies to integrate all mobility services and all services regarding smart city. So we that it's important, okay? But we should also use people like different stakeholders to have a common goal for that.
As you might know, on 25th May, we'll have to accomplish with GDPR.
Yes.
How this could collide with GDPR?
I don't think it will collide. I think GDPR is coming in a moment that the regulations leading with an inevitable development. So it's inevitable for us to have that kind of information available for the public and for the companies. The regulation will limit how the information can be shared and could or can put in the top of mind of the companies that should be some off limits on that, and if those limits are not respected, I believe some problems and some financial problems.
There are a few risks.
Yeah, there are a few risks, and this regulation is useful to put on top of mind of the management, not only companies but also public companies, to think that okay, we have some risks here, and we have to have some rules regarding the management of information, of course, not only for the citizens but also for the companies. So the risks are around different entities on the ecosystem.
Nuno Gomes Lopes, can you tell us a little about your project, transportespublicos.org? Excuse me. .pt, sorry.
Yeah, so we started as a project, we participated in Huldenkamp, in a Huldenkamp competition for foreign people who lived abroad. So my associate was living in the Netherlands, and he proposed a Teco Planner, which was a transport eco planner, something like that. So he would tell you about all the public transport options, and then he would suggest different types of transports or different routing according to the ecological outcome of that travel. So that evolved. We won a competition, and we created transportespublicos.pt, which means public transport in Portugal. So we basically did travel planning for walking, traveling by bike, and public transport. And of course, that every time you calculate the public transport route, it would tell you the walking route also. But then we could also combine the bike and the public transport.
This was in 2013.
The beginning.
Yeah.
What were the main challenges?
13. I'm not sure the date.
Not 13?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Well, I researched.
But some years. Thank you for that. So your question was?
What were the main challenges
Yeah. So
in the beginning of this project?
well, this is basically a grassroots movement. So we had to create a company. We didn't want to create a company until we were strong enough. But in a way, it's a grassroots movement as an answer to the lack of information, public information on this matter. Since the
But
government...
did you have to contact the public transport companies and ask them data?
Yes. So since there was no public service working for this, we had ourselves to do this individually. So the public transport companies and then all the privately owned companies, we had to contact them and propose them a model. And in the beginning, we're just starting. So our proposal was simple: is work with us, and it's a win-win situation because there's no money involved. That was our first situation. Then as it evolved, it became a company-based situation. So we had to, there had to be money involved. So when we reached that stage, no one was interested because no one, in a way, knew how much they could gain for that. And then we reached situations that...
So for free, they all accepted?
No.
No?
No.
What kind of answer did you get?
I mean, when it came to public transportation, they didn't understand the need, I guess. I'm not sure. I can't analyze the...
Did you have to deal with a lot of red tape?
Yeah. definitely. We had situations in Porto with the bus company, the second STCP, the traffic bus company in Porto. They had their own route planner, so they would work with us. We had situations where companies first wanted to work with us, and then they understood it's an open access route planner, so everybody was there, and they said, no, we don't want to work with you because when a person understands that there are other companies working on the same routes, we're going to lose clients. So they decided they withdrew. So we had a lot of ups and downs. And
It is easier nowadays?
Nowadays Google has entered the market as it did in Sweden. So at that time, Google had already the train schedules, and then the buses in Lisbon, the metro in Lisbon, and also in Porto. And recently, they got through and also have the buses in Porto. So that's a good coverage of where most of the Portuguese population lives, which is on the seaside around the two main cities. So Google has a very limited service. I'm guessing there's still a lot of space for the global route planner, which doesn't exist yet.
Please feel free to interrupt or, yes.
Just to
Go
go
ahead.
on the back of that, I've got experience in Belgium of the national journey planning system was terrible, it didn't work. And this young guy in his back bedroom, he was just at 16 years old, developed an app. And he had 30,000 hits a day on his app. And the regional transport authorities have spent millions of euros on this system. And they wouldn't speak to the guy because they didn't want to be embarrassed into the fact that somebody sitting in their back bedroom could actually design a better system than some high-tech company. So this is where transparency comes in and people working together. If we're going to be working and encouraging entrepreneurship and data, these results can come from anybody at any time. And this is how collectively we should work to our strengths. There is no need now to go and work with big companies to design stuff. Get communities involved to solve their own problems with assistance and working with bigger companies. And if they feel empowered to do things, they'll use it and support local businesses. I'm not against multinationals, I work for enough of them, but I mean, if you can encourage local solutions to local problems, you will get good results.
Daniel, did Swedish economy also had a boost with open data?
Yes, I think there has been a few companies that has, and I think in a sense it has been perhaps in other forms than you might expect. So, for instance, there is one example of a for nannies when you want someone to come and watch your child, and they're actually
babysit your child.
Babysitter, exactly, babysitter. And this agency for that, connecting desperate parents with babysitters. And I mean, they are using the travel timing algorithm in order to sort of match so that you have a minimum of the transfer time between where the babysitter lives and where the baby lives. So I think, I mean, that is, and I think we have seen a lot of these sort of quite interesting integrations where public transport is not perhaps at the heart of their operations, but where it can add value. So I think that's one of the things, and also, I mean, there is a problem because there is, of course, when you release open data and you do it in a good way, you're quite likely to see not one app or two apps, but many of them. And that means if you want to be the one who sells it, you're not going to be chosen, I would say. So it's quite difficult to find a business model. So I think that the developers who have, they have sustained these apps for a long period of time, although they are free. So, and I think that they have found other ways of monetizing on their apps. So, for instance, a few of them are like independent consultants. And of course, if you have an app in the App Store that has 300,000 downloads and high ratings, people are going to look, who built this good app? And then you go to that guy, and that's, it's a very, very good advertisement. which you cannot really buy in any other way. So I think, I mean, that's a very good way to monetize it. So I mean, there has been growth in that sense, but I mean, to my knowledge, it has not been done any more like systematic quantifying the business value of it, but for sure that there has been people who have been able to monetize from it.
Rui Velasco, we're having a big boost in tourism here in Portugal and also in Central region. Do you believe the Transport Authority should establish an obligation to the public transport operators, make the information available on like schedules, real-time positions, and so on in Google Maps, for example?
Well, like my colleague Pedro Barradas told this morning, throughout the European Union with the ITS directive, with the Action A, there's going to be established a national access portal where all the information for all the countries should be put in order for everyone who needs that information, can use that information, can build an app with that information. And that Action A has a schedule that will be implemented in 3, 4, 5 years. It will be implemented.
And until then?
And until then, we are preparing that information. In Portugal, most of the public transport have now uploaded their services on a national system that it's called CISMOB. That system is open now for all transport authorities, because the transport system is now being taken care by transport authorities that have to do the planning for the public transport in the next few years, and they are already using that data for planning that information. And that data should be available for public use in a WebGIS portal during this year for every user. So most of the public transport systems will be available for everyone who wants to search it. And of course, the big issue here is okay, we need to get that information in with some data parameters that everyone can understand and can use. And we need to ease the burden for operators, for the public who has the information, for the developers of the APIs, reduce the burdens of having to do all the time conversions about different types of data. And for that, it's very important that national authorities and European Union promotes the use of standards, like for instance, NetX, which is a European standard that has been developed for public transports, and our work goes very much in that direction. Of course, you were talking about tourism, and I didn't address specifically the question about tourism. If you go to a place and you don't, in a foreign country, and you don't know how to get to somewhere, that of course will make you have a worse opinion of that touristic destination. So that's of course a plus that you have. I did an Interrail 30 years ago, and the Interrail was a mystery. Every time you came to a different country, it was okay, I need to have the consult the time schedules at the station, and I asked people, how do I get to that place? And I did another Interrail on last summer, and most of the information, like I told before, was on my phone. The bookings, the reservations of the hotel were done with my phone. On different systems, with different type of data, it was not so easy, but it is doable. And in the future, it will be easier.
So we also have to have some concerns about digitalization and about people who doesn't have full access to internet or to a smartphone.
Of course, one of the questions when we think about public transport is that public transport should be for everyone. And some of the aspects that we are able to promote with public transport. For instance, we are talking about flexible transport on the break. And when you talk about flexible transport, and the example that we have a good example working here in Portugal, and it's an example that you can make the reservation with your phone. So if you are an older people that might not see using an app as the first option, you can use more traditional ways. So you can have access to data and to information in different ways, different solutions. Like my colleague was telling, you don't have a silver bullet. It's a mix of solutions for different people, for different necessities, in different regions, urban regions, rural regions. So there's not a single silver bullet that will solve the problem of mobility.
Just to come in on that, I was involved with the EU WiseTrip project, trying to integrate all the national journey planning systems to have a pan-European journey planning system. Utopia seems, on theory, loads of data, put it together, impossible. You don't have the local fairs for every organisation, trying to keep it up to date, different protocols in different countries. You can get the journey type, you can go from your home to any other home in the whole of Europe. However, it would do a combination of flights with Air France, with British Airways, which you can get one ticket to work because there's two different carrier groups. So the theory, it just takes, if you had to build on every parameter for every choice and every restriction, it would take 100 years to build it. So in theory, coming back to, you want a multimodal journey plan that could cover the whole of Europe and also different currencies, then the time zones, the whole thing is really, really complicated. We spent 5 years with WiseTrip and enhanced to WiseTrip, trying to work with the European Commission to come up with that very solution, and it's still not there yet, and I don't think it ever will be. I think local, if we can convince people locally in their own country to change the modal stuff, then give them the confidence to make that change and then go to another country that's going to do it and link maybe groups of countries together for the whole of Europe. I don't think will ever happen because it's technical complexity.
I think even, I'm sorry, but
Go
also
ahead.
to complement this, even in Portugal, we believe that the approach will be this. So specific cities will start to work like Cascais, like Lisbon, like Porto, and now we feel that the same approach is being applied to groups of cities. There is a project also in the European Commission and the United Nations that was developed by SEIA, that is a Center of Engineering and Aeronautic here in Portugal, and we work closely also with SEIA, and they are now developing a project that will gather information from 3 cities, Matosinhos, Gaia and Porto. So something that starts in a specific city that now is going to cover more than one. So the approach will be progressively
Step by step.
Yes, and successful cases like Cascais, like Porto, also like Lisbon, that will also challenge the rest of the cities to improve on that. I think one of the main things that we are feeling is that the municipality managers and the municipalities will be progressively be challenged to improve. So it's impossible to stay like municipalities are today and focusing on the most.
You're more open-minded today. Do you feel like that?
They have to be because it's inevitable to have the demanding of information that, for example, the youngest generations will demand, not only in terms of technology but also in terms of environmental impact, how vehicles will impact the environment, how vehicles will give me information. So these kinds of issues will be more and more demanding by the future generations. That's why cities must also change and must improve on that dimensions.
Nuno, according to your experience, do you think there are any key rules that the new transport authorities should follow in the future public procurement for public transport?
You mean in what area?
like rules for public transport to follow, to be more innovative, more open, more have service for disabled, for example?
Yeah, I can give you an example in Porto of our ticketing system, for example, which was a pioneering system at the beginning, and now it's has been losing qualities as time passes. And this year they have this new thing, which is an app on your, and you can pay for your trip as you travel. I mean, it calculates your travel needs, and then it gives you a bill at the end of the month. But the previous system, which is working and has been working since the beginning of the metro system, has lost qualities, and then they made up this new thing with the app, and then which will have its problems. So I'm just going to focus with the ticketing system. So when it came up, it's called Andante. It has two versions. It's a single trip card and or the pass, monthly pass. And that was the basis, and it always works perfectly. It was a lifetime card. So when you compared it to conventional ticketing, which you would have like a paper, or you could have a card for a monthly ticket that it could lose its validity. But the system was forever. If you kept it in good shape, it will work. And last year they made up this restriction that a card only lasts 1 year, and the monthly pass lasts for 5 years. So there was a lot of people who lost trips because of that situation, and then the ecological situation regressed, because now you have a ticket that only lasts 1 year, and I have tickets for, I don't know, 10 years in my pocket, and that worked out. And then there was a lot of things that they weren't focusing on improving a very good system. They lost qualities as time passed by, and now they invented this new app that's going to solve everything. So I guess that in Portugal, the stakeholders must focus on the usability, and then on innovation, but it can only be related with new technologies and new things that are going to come up. I guess that you have to improve what you have, and that's always the main goal. And if you have a system that is losing qualities, but then you end up with this new app that it's very flashy and everybody's very happy
But
with it.
no one uses it.
I don't know about that. I'm sure my mother won't use it. But what about
Neither my mother.
The previous system was great, and it's regressing. So yeah, I guess that what I'm saying is applies to a lot of situations. In Porto, you had a tram system. It was a huge tram system, which was demolished, and then eventually, 30 years afterwards, they had to implement a light rail system where the tram system was, which was hugely expensive. So if in the 60s and the 50s, if they had a way of looking at things like, I don't know, Switzerland, of evolution, so the tram system could have evolved to a modern system. And the answer was to demolish it and then build a new system. So that's what I would say to stakeholder or the government or whatever. Please improve the existing systems and then think about new systems, please.
Thank you. Daniel, what will be your advice for our Portuguese national authorities, for transport authorities?
Well, I think that it's a large question and it has many dimensions. But I mean, I think one thing we didn't perhaps discuss so much this far is the sort of multimodal aspect or multi-region. So I think that it's one thing for, say, a public transport authority to publish data, but when another one does it as well, how can we actually integrate these data sets? And I think that that's where you, as a developer or innovator, will bump into problems, because someone has to do that type of integration. And either you say, well, developer, you must solve this, or you choose some other type of approach to it. I think in in Sweden, you have this organization for public transport companies, so you have this ability, or at least precondition, to harmonize the data before it's published. And I think, I mean, if you're able to do that, I think that's great. But I realize that that is perhaps not possible in all places. I know that others are looking to open source platforms like OpenStreetMaps, for instance, having close collaboration with this very, very vibrant community in order to make sure that the data is harmonized in this maps platform. I mean, that's another way of doing it. Other countries are more, depending on private actors who have this knowledge, and then, might add a small fee when people are accessing the data. And I think that, I mean, there are different approaches to this, and I think it becomes even more complex when you start to talk about bike paths, for instance. How can you integrate a bus stop and a bike path? Park and ride stops, where you have actors who are not in the same industry anymore, and how can you make sure that this data is interoperable? And I think that I don't think anyone really has the solution to that just yet, but I think that these technologies that are being pushed for now, a lot from the EU side when it comes to things like linked data and those kind of technologies. I mean, when they start to have more, when they are taking off within the institutions, which they aren't today, but if they are and when they do, I think we can sort of find this middle road where everything is not super standardized, but it's not entirely separate as well. So I think I think these are very important issues when you start to publish on a more, say, regional or national level.
Rui Velasco, how can we ensure that the various transport authorities follow standardized rules to enable this large-scale integration?
Well, we can't. And I'm not sure if that
we can force them, right?
No, and I'm not sure if that is
the way.
desirable. They have to have guidelines, and that is very important. That at least they're thinking on similar ways, but it's important also that they find their own solutions. Some things, when we look at transportation.
But can you combine different solutions? Is it easy to do?
You have to learn to live with a world that it's not all standardized, and we have always lived in a world like that. All Europe drives on the right, not the UK. Yeah. Why not? Well, because it's not easy to go to the UK and say, okay, you have to drive on the right, or go to entire Europe and say you have to drive on the left. Different people have different solutions in different regions. What's important is that when I, as a driver that used to drive on the right, can go to the UK and drive on the left and don't have any problem. That's important. Yeah. That I can use different systems and understand how they work and use them without problem for myself. So with the different transport authorities, what we have to do is we have to have transport authorities that understand what they're doing, that think in a similar way with the same guidelines, and are conscious when they take their decisions that their decisions are the decisions that are better suited for them. For that, one thing that we can do is IMT manages the transport fund, and through the transport fund we can finance some development, some capacitation from the transport authorities. For instance, in April, May, so next month or so, there will be a call for 3 million euros, in which transport authorities can run, and with that call they can develop their own ITS systems. They can have studies for transport networks. What should be the transport network that they need.
And also for open data platforms? Is there any call for that?
Well, the call is not still finalized, so I'm not sure if that will be covered, but that there will
Could be an
more
option. It could be an option.
it could be an option, and there over 1 million euros will be for intelligent transport systems. So, and if it's not on this call, the transport fund will have further calls further ahead. So that's what we need to ensure, is that all transport authorities are equipped to find their own solutions, and also that their own solutions work with the solution of their neighbors. They don't have to be the same, they have to work together.
Brian, the new concept of shared mobility like Uber or BlaBlaCar and the new concepts of mobility as a service are, in your opinion, a threat or a benefit to transport public transport for public transport? I'm sorry.
It's the future. I mean, there's well, having written the book towards the virtual agency 2003 predicting this, and having been in the UK bus industry where it was not customer focused, and there's a clash coming back to deal with transport authorities and innovative people. Innovative people want to do things quickly. Transport authorities, guys, you're dealing with guys that want to keep themselves in a job for 40 years. They don't want things to change quickly in a lot of cases. And you can have as many policies as you like. It comes back to personalities. Those that want to do it will do it. And those that say, I don't have to do it, won't do it. And I would say if Facebook or Google had to deal with transport authorities when they were being set up, you would still not hear from them today. They got on with it, went to the market, and the market decided. And now, I'm not one way or another. People have to get a service, and we've got to make sure it's got to be safe. I think the whole way transport authorities will be designed in the future will be completely different. I think we'll have a stakeholder group which has everybody involved, all the operators, sharing the data to solve problems, not create them. So we've got innovation that's seen as a new drug to cure a problem.
So we can't stop innovation.
No.
Just for
Mobility is a service. No. Uber is a success, even though people don't like the model. Now, Uber will learn from that and they come back. For every problem in the world, they create a solution that creates a different problem. That's life, it goes on. Pareto is another thing, the 80-20 rule. If you can get 80% of what you want, 80% of the time, you're lucky. If you want 100% of what you want, you'll get nothing. And we've got to become flexible and also not risk adverse. So you made the problem, I did this, I was right, you were wrong. We've all got to share in the success and share in the learning. We've got to create the knowledge base and work to our strengths. Now all this data, we need more data analysts, we need more planners, network guys that understand this data to provide the authorities with decision making. And it's got to be done quickly. We don't want to wait 5 years to get an answer to last week's problem. So we need to get things, the whole structure has got to change. Mobility as a service is not a threat, it's an opportunity. But it will be a threat to mobility if nothing happens. We're talking, and nothing's happening. And everybody thinks, oh, we've Harry Potter, we've got the magic bullet, we've solved the world's problems.
So let's stop stalking, get up and do something.
We have to do something, but not just do anything to follow a fashion. We have to work with our people, our cities, our bus operators, taxi operators to say, what is the best solution for Aveiro, which is different to Porto, which is different from Lisbon? What is the demographics of the city? What are the strengths of the city? What are the... we create the skeleton framework and then let the people put the meat on for what's the best solution for them, but empower everybody in the process. That would be my guideline. But mobility as a service, that if we don't make this work, we'll never make anything work.
Liliana, in your opinion, how can the traditional public transports compete with these new shared mobility services? Or they shouldn't compete?
I think it's not a competition. I think it's an improvement that public companies also must follow. As my previous colleague was saying, I think the key is to involve together all the entities cities, public and private, in order to understand better the behaviors and how the cities are organized and which could be the future in terms of management, not only in terms of transportation and public transportation, but also in private ones. And we are not talking, for example, in autonomous vehicles, because we believe also that in terms of big impact in the future, not probably in all cities, but in some cities and some areas, autonomous vehicles will also bring a lot and a lot of efficiency to the transportation sector. I believe also, and I agree absolutely with the previous comment, and we are already doing that, for example, in Europe and also here in Portugal. We are promoting the mobility greenhouses in Deloitte with different municipality managers. We did it in Lisbon, we are going to do it in Porto. We did it in London, in Barcelona. So we are trying together the different stakeholders from the different dimensions of the ecosystem. And when I say dimensions, we usually identify 5 dimensions. The regulators, of course, that's one of the main components of the ecosystem. The mobility managers, that can be public or private ones, that depends also on the country and on the city. We have also the customers and the clients, the customer experience that everyone talks about, but in the bottom it's a very important issue to be addressed, because the youngest, again, and the oldest ones, they have different needs. So in terms of transportation experiences, of course, that the providers must also adjust to that need. The vehicles producers, the OEMs, the guys that build the vehicles, and they are able to collect a lot of information that can also be very useful to public entities. For example, Volkswagen, BMW, Tesla, they are working very closely to public entities in Germany, for example, and with technology companies like Google. So there is a lot happening on this. And then at the bottom of this, the infrastructure managers. And when we talk about infrastructures, we are talking about roads, rail, data infrastructure, because data, we talk about information that is not tangible, but there is a lot of infrastructure that must be maintained, must be built in order to gather that information. So when we have this perspective, and in order to take a more efficient decision, our view is that they should be all involved and try to think and to create a roadmap of different initiatives that can be implemented in the medium, long term, but can be, but at the end they must have a common goal or a different set of common goals in order to articulate all these aspects. Okay, so that's a very important thing, and we believe that will be the future in terms of how the different players will decide and be together on this journey. Yeah, but also I think to the sharing economy, just also to share with you guys that Deloitte did a study 2 years ago, and we are also improving on that. That the 2 main drivers and forces that will also impact the future will be how the ownership of the vehicle. So now.
So to buy a car is outdated.
Yeah, youngest people that doesn't want to have a car. So for me and for my generation, and probably the persons that are in the audience, when I bought my first car, it was a huge achievement for me. And now, for the same age, I feel that people doesn't care about owning a car. They want the experience to do things, to go to other countries, so they feel life in a different way. And the ownership will be a main driven on this, and we feel that in 2030, 2040, probably the sharing economy and the mobility as a service, as a component of all this, will be the limit. One other drive is the ability to control the vehicle. Okay, so that's why we believe that the assisted-driven vehicles or even the autonomous vehicles will have a lot of impact, not only in transportation, but also, for example, in insurance companies.
Are we ready for that in the near future?
Not yet. Some tests are being done, some pilots, in specific areas, industrial areas, we call exclusive industrial zones, where, for example, here in Portugal, autonomous vehicles are being tested in Cascais, in Porto, in other cities, even in London, United States. There are areas that are specifically prepared to test the performance of autonomous vehicles. But
it's not only the vehicle, it's also the roads and
So all the environment is created to test that performance. Of course, if we think about Porto, that is a city with a lot of very
hills.
regular hills.
Also Lisbon.
It's more like Lisbon, like the center of Lisbon, for example, the historic area of Lisbon. It will be a challenge also for the municipality to articulate the demanding for innovation, technology, new vehicles, but at the same time,
we can change the city.
Yeah, we can change it, but this will take a
well,
lot.
not the hills.
Yeah, this will take a lot in terms of strategy to change, okay, to think how cities in the future will become. So if you have to take, there are trade-offs to be taken. So as you said, we want all like the Mick Jagger's song. You can't always get what you want. You have to get what you need, and sometimes it's a difficult struggle to decide and to know what we need. Yes. Yeah.
So we're about to finish our time. Nuno, as Rui Velasco told before, do you believe that the use of the mobile phone is the future? So do you believe that in the near future we can travel across Europe just with our smartphone, or to use all the public transports with just a smartphone?
Just regarding the last intervention.
Oh, sure, of course.
I mean, you can't really fight in a city if it's hilly like Porto. I mean, Porto is hilly in some parts, and Lisbon is hilly in some parts, but you can't really fight in a city. But then, in our route planner, as in many, when it came to bike planning, there was an option of flattening the city, which is how you go to the place. Because between A to B...
Oh, through a different road, to a flat road.
You might be at the same height, but you have to travel to, like through valleys, right? But you can go around those places, and it's a heightless trip. So you can actually flatten the city.
Okay, not the city, but your road.
But your road. Yeah. And it's technology doing that. Yeah, I guess.
Well, that's also worthy for hills.
Sure. If you have the information of the problem on the streets. Sure. So regarding your question, I mean, technology has to work for everybody. So you can really expect that everybody is a young teenager that likes technology and has a smartphone. There's blind people, disabled people, old people, and people don't really care about technology, and those people will always be there. I guess that's really what we're looking for. We're looking at in the future. We're looking at societies that will rely on technology more and more. But if you want things to work out, you have to always consider everyone else that won't use that technology. So that's the goal, I guess, the challenge.
Combined solutions. Thank you all for your time and for your interventions, and I hope we see you all soon.